Hello everyone, I'm number one Marmaduke fan. A couple weeks ago, my local comic book shop owner saw I picked up one issue of a Valiant comic based on the recommendation of someone I was talking to at the comic book shop. This sparked a conversation about whether I was interested in Valiant comics at all. I had to admit, no, I wasn't particularly interested in them. I didn't know where to start, and he loaned me two of his personal copies of his Valiant books to help get me hooked in the Valiant universe. I've now read two excellent trade paperbacks. I read the paperback number one of the most recent incarnation of Ninjak, and this volume one of Manowar Soldier, and two solid superhero books compared to some of the junk I've read from Marvel, miles above that. I'm still kind of a manga guy at heart, so I still maybe primarily go to manga for most of my entertainment, but thanks to my local comic book shop owner, I have now been given a warm introduction to what Valiant Comics is, and I'm interested to check out more of it. Two good experiences. So Man of War, written by Matt Kindt, Tomas Giorello is the main artist for, I think, the first four issues, and then they have a free comic book day issue as a bonus, and a bunch of bonus art pages. For some reason, the cover artists are not Giorello. They're similar to his style in that it's generally sort of realistic pencil, and then they do digital effects on top of the pencil. I don't think there's an inking stage. So even though the cover artists are close to Giorello's style, I think that Giorello wins the Badass Artist Award for this whole trade paperback. So I think we'll do storybook time with Uncle Marmaduke fan, and I'll just make general comments on the art as I go. So the main character is Eric of Earth. He was a Visigoth who fought the Romans, and I guess now he's in our time or the future, but pretty much he's alive on an alien planet, and he wants peace. So good opening. 2-page spread with some panels of Eric at work, and we get to see all of Tomas's strengths. Depth of field, virtuoso. They're doing something big and exciting with the drawing. Sketchiness, but controlling the line on the human form, using just a little shading to get the light and shadow and show his musculature. Excellent. It's consistently excellent through all the issues that Tomas does. And then it's a little generic. There's like an Azure nation, and there's a Cerulean empire, because one's blue and one's yellow, and there are some burnt people from the desert with burnt skin, and it's like the Romans and the Visigoths. So he comes from ancient Rome. He's on an alien planet where the politics are like the Visigoths versus the Romans, and he's in love with this blue alien girl. I don't know. They have some interesting kind of bedroom talk about how he was in love with a woman on Earth, and she thinks it's weird that a woman wouldn't have a tail. I don't know. That's kind of an interesting little alien thing, even though we never see what the alien tails look like. So it gives it a little bit of flavor. And then we immediately understand that Eric has a secret. He has his Man of War armor that he's buried under a rock, and he brings it home, and he chips off a little piece of it to forge a ring. And then when he gets back, the armor speaks to him and says, well, I could have given you armor. And Eric says, oh, there was need. You do my will, armor. You work for me. I do not have need of you. So Eric, the drawing, the dark shadows around his eyes clearly communicate antipathy for this armor, and a want to control it and not let the armor control him. So this most reminds me of sort of Peter Parker's relationship with the symbiote, where the symbiote kind of represented having a toxic relationship, and Spider-Man needed to overcome that. But in this instance, Eric's sort of the abusive one, trying to ignore the armor, trying to keep the armor from changing his life. He just wants to live and farm. I've seen this setup in a lot of kind of Braveheart, Gladiator type movies. So the Azure nation comes calling and demands his presence to help fight the Cerulean Empire. It's a little weird because large armies need lots of crops to feed their troops. So if he's a farmer and he's one-armed, wouldn't he be better? Yeah, his wife makes a good argument. Wouldn't he be better growing crops for the troops, but I guess they want him to be cannon fodder. But Eric is a warrior born and bred since the ancient Roman times. So they get this whole talk from a wizened commander about what a rough time they're going to have. And I guess my critique is sometimes I have a little hard time understanding what the sense of place is or what the plan is. The fights, the war scene is most close to sort of storming the beaches of Normandy on D-Day. They fire these little ships into the cliff. They have to climb up the cliff while people are getting chopped up left and right. And then once they get to the top, then they have to charge through a minefield. And Eric proves he's a badass by, being smart. He steps on the bodies so he doesn't step on the mines. And then he takes down a giant alien monstrosity while his old wizened friend apparently gets ripped up. We see him later, though, so I guess they have the technology that if your organs fail, they can heal you or give you artificial organs or something. This was a little weird, too, because he's down on the leg and he's cutting into it. And then the monster looks like it starts dying, and then he cuts out of its head or something. Are they saying he cut his way inside its body and cut his way from the leg all the way up to the head? What? That was a little weird, but he consistently looks tough. He consistently is well drawn. I'm trying to remember who the current artist on Aquaman has this sort of this heroically proportioned George Bridgman drawing style, and I'm seeing that in Giorello's work as well. And I don't have anything really bad to say about it, except maybe Eric's a little stiff in a couple panels, but this is a masterclass draw. Mwah. I'm excited about this. So don't let my little OCD nitpicks let you think I have a bad impression of this. I have a fantastic impression of all this. Look at this. Great sort of alien establishing shot, and then back to the action. So Eric, because of his heroics on the battlefield, is sort of picked by the general to do a suicide mission. And there's this great scene where it's almost like he's praying, speaking to his armor, and then it lights up, and then it envelops him. And I don't get it. Maybe if he just has a little ring, that's enough for the Exo Manowar armor to envelop him or give him power. I don't know. But so here's an example. So this cover was probably drawn in pencil and then digital painting. And it's okay, but I just don't think it works together. It's a really harsh digital painting style on top of a pencil drawing, and I just can't quite accept it in my mind. Now, this actually works better. So this gets at a thesis the Diversity in Comics channel has talked about, where he advocates for simple comic book coloring as typical of comics in the 90s. And I agree, but the thing I'm thinking about from my art training is my teachers teaching us about the Bauhaus, this sort of German school of architecture, where they had this principle called form follows function. So if you build a chair, you don't make it look like a swoopy-doopy chair that's uncomfortable to sit in. You make something that's comfortable to sit in first, that's functional, and then the form follows what it's meant to do. It's essentially the idea of being practical while designing something. Now, for the Bauhaus, that was for things like chairs and household objects and architecture. My art teachers made the application that if you want a certain look in painting, use the tools that fit that. If you want something to look like an oil painting, paint with oils. Don't try to imitate it in Photoshop. If you want something to look Photoshopped, use Photoshop. If you want heavy, if you want a simplified look, use solid blacks and whites. If you want a textured look, use a lot of gradients in your paint and lots of shading. So the point I want to make is that for sort of simple comic booky styles with really strong black and white art, simple colors work well. But I would actually defend this sort of painterly digital color because I think it blends so well with the Renaissance-y style drawing of subtle shading with the pencil. Subtle coloring works well with that because they just kind of belong together. Simple color, simple black and white lines, subtle pencil drawing, subtle color. So I'll also throw respect on the colorist for these issues. It's Diego Rodriguez. So it worked for me. So I think this is really harmonious. It's really exciting. It's really fun. This, it just feels like, I don't know, like an action figure or a CG model or something. I wish they got the regular artist to do all the covers because he could sell this book muy grande, muy bueno. And I'm not throwing shade at this. I don't hate this. It's just, it's good drawing, but it's good drawing where the coloring is fighting it. I wouldn't pick this up off the stands. Nothing about this would say, pick this up, you're going to absolutely love, love, love the artist. But actually, if we just flip ahead to all the great pencil sketches, that does a better job for me. I hope I didn't do like a Diversity in Comics crotch shot there. Yeah, so really powerful pencil drawing with large areas of whites, not really solid blacks. It's pushing about as dark as you can get with graphite there. But mwah, muy bueno. So let's continue with our storybook time with Uncle Marmaduke fans. So Eric has survived his first major battle, and now he's being sent in as kind of on a suicide mission with this team. So this girl is a burnt girl, Cat. So Cat's apparently really good at killing people. There's these two brothers who don't really get much characterization, and there's this traitor to the Cadmium Empire, Bruto, like Brutus, and they're all going in together. So many, like, yeah, if you have an evil empire, well, it's Roman or it's Nazi, and it's some little mix of those. I still have the thought that one of the problems with Valiant is they're trying to sell me on like this big, expansive universe, and they haven't had decades to build up some of these ideas and concepts, but their art is helping to sell this simple idea. It's a very simple evil empire versus sort of barbarian hordes sort of sci-fi setup, but the beautiful art and the detail of the art helps this world feel lived in and detailed and cool. So really, I think that Giorello deserves most of the props for just how cool and action-packed this whole book felt. It's very John Carter of Mars-esque, and Eric always comes off as sort of a tough, noble character who loves life and hates war, but a subplot that's building gradually is that maybe he secretly loves war, and he secretly loves the exo armor and what it does to him. So he has a conversation with his wizened friend, who I don't get who this guy is or where he comes from, because he has the same pink skin that Eric does. So is he from Earth or is he a burn man? But he gives Eric the advice that the other commanders want to do him in. So he has to disobey his orders if he wants to survive and complete the mission. So he plays fast and loose with the plan. I love that the women look like women and the men look super masculine. That is excellent. I dig it. So they fight their way through the hordes. He has this whole fight with a cadmium commander who kind of calls him a mud soldier, a nothing, ignorant, and he kind of defends himself well by saying, well, I may not have read all the books that you have, but I understand the value of life. And he dispatches the cadmium commander, and they have these sort of like people strapped into machines who control their airships and stuff. So I think he has to like regrettably kill them. I don't know. Maybe could he have disconnected them without killing them? Maybe he couldn't have, I guess. So they're still doing the point that he's a warrior, but he's a warrior who regrets killing. And man, he looks so intense and tough throughout all this. Look at this guy. Yes, positive masculinity. Positive masculinity being expressed in an aggressive, tough, won't back down type of a character. I dig it. But he's not just purely violence and beating things up. He has a noble spirit to him where he hates war and he just wants to survive this experience and get home. Or does he? Or does he love war? We'll see. So, yeah, I did not like this cover. No. The line work is getting all speckled around, and I don't know, the Exo Man of War armor doesn't look that cool. It's like it's supposed to be sort of gold, solid armor that covers you like an Iron Man suit, but it's sort of that bacon look where you just got like a bunch of strips of bacon on the person. Give me a few simple shapes, lines, and ideas. I don't know. I guess that's the whole point of it, is it's supposed to be like these strips of metal that are sort of controlled by a computer that envelop you. But gold is really hard to imitate the look of in painting because gold shimmers. It's its iridescence. That's why so many Renaissance artists would use actual gold, and they'd pound down the gold leaf foil on it because it looks magnificent. It's gold. I don't know. I would, if you're calling it, if it needs to be gold in the story, I would have gone for just sort of a solid, simple color with some really, how Marvel used to do it, really solid blacks, black and white shading to help give it some visual punch, some contrast. Maybe that wouldn't be harmonious with this sort of subtle, sketchy style, but maybe I'd save your strongest lights and your strongest darks for anything gold that you paint because it shimmers in the light so much. It's good to give that some visual contrast to the rest of the world where, a hand has some subtle shading on it from light to dark, but gold shimmers, gold shines. Punch that. They have some guest artists. Let's look them up because I thought this was a neat little bit where they used guest artists to do an interesting sort of explanation of the evil empire. So who is it? David Mack and Zhu Orzu. So maybe David Mack and Zhu Orzu just collaborated to make this little abstract scene. Things are inspired by, that doesn't look like Roman architecture. That looks like Gothic architecture or Islamic architecture to my eye. But lots of evoking Roman and Greek pottery images and bright color palette, but a variety of colors and lots of white. So this is some punchy color. It was all right. It kind of set up the idea of the Cadmium Empire being these evil people who genetically modify people, and then Eric essentially says, "Enough! I've heard enough. They're just like the Roman Empire. I want to go fight." So even though they've destroyed all the city's defenses, allowing the blue aliens to get in, they're not done yet. Now they've been ordered to go capture the Cadmium president, the president of the yellow people. By the way, I kind of dig these stormtrooper outfits, just sort of knight in shining armor type of outfits with slits for eyes. Yeah, it's simple, straightforward, kind of cool, and it evokes an idea. But his rival from his army thinks this is his chance to get rid of Eric, so he starts bombing the entire city before they can capture the president. They get super close. I like this page, so let's see here. Before this, they're flying through the air. Just great dynamic shots. Up high angles, low angles, bird's eye views, worm's eye views, Dutch angles. This is exciting compositions for these scenes to give them variety and punch. So going horizontally at super speed, then to this sort of vertical composition. Eric in the targets, the cadmium soldiers saying, "Die, heathen," and it blasts out in kind of like a cross direction, and the bullet misses him. Sweet. There's this good rhythm where you'll get a page like this where it's sort of nice and symmetrical, then back to the asymmetrical, everybody beating each other up kind of stuff. And I lost the page where I saw it, but these pages also have concern for, pointing your eye in the right direction. So let's try this. So this is pointing up, to this empty white space. So it's sort of a center of interest. But then this also will bring you back down to a face. Faces are often centers of interest. Column, kind of framing this in here. This actually isn't the best page. There's a lot of empty space for the scenery, and it was really hard to tell who these characters were. So this is actually one of my least favorite pages in the whole book, ironically. But it still proves my point generally that Tomas, I want to learn this guy's name so I can always keep finding him. Tomas Giorello. Tomas Giorello is concerned for his compositions and for pointing the eye where it needs to go. So you don't end up down here and going, often and never land. It keeps you contained. So they survived the ordeal. Everyone on Eric's team kind of recognizes that he got them through that. He left no man behind, and the general recognizes his strength and dispatches the Brax, I think. The idiot who was trying to kill Eric is dispatched, and Eric is now rising in the ranks. He's now a captain as a alien interloper, as a pink-skinned one. And he remembers the girl of his dreams, but his armor his armor's almost like Satan whispering in his ear that you love war. You could have used me to go get her and run away forever, but you have work to do, and this is where you belong. Ooh. Is he? We'll find out. But he is really good at what he does. This is a little free comic book day story, and let's get the artist. The artist for this was different. It's still that same sort of Renaissance-y style drawing. It's much more simplified. So the regular artist was Tomas Giorello, and the prologue artist was CAFU. So maybe that was a studio of people. CAFU. So CAFU's style is... This, I think, is much less harmonious. It's sort of simple lines where it's a realistic human face, but it doesn't have all that sort of subtle pencil rendering that we saw before. So here, the soft and subtle paint style fights a bit with the line style, I think. But still, it's generally pretty good. It holds a candle to the other art, but 100% Tomas Giorello wins my Badass Artist Award for this whole book. So all that little prologue story did was it told how he met his alien wife on that planet. They've got some interviews and, yeah, boy, concept art describing all the cool stuff, how they designed the armor, why they designed it that way, the different races. Look at this stuff. Oh, they know what I like. So a lot of the Marvel trade paperbacks I've noticed, they may have the variant covers in them, but there's not much, cool stuff that makes me get super excited to get it. And same for some of the digital comics. They're usually stripped down. It's just the bare bones story with not much of the extra art. Man, look at that. Boss. Solid white area. Rich blacks right there. So even though it's graphite, it's not ink, you can still get a real rich contrast between dark and light with that. Fantastic. Que bella. I love it. Okay, this I thought looked better in drawn form than in digital form. There was some extra patchy painting in the background to evoke clouds. I like this as a very simple idea, with most of the rendering being done on him in the foreground. That's not, who is that? That's a different artist. Oh, it should be just right there. Yeah, okay. Oh, this is Tomas Giorello. Yeah, so no wonder it blends with his style so well. He did it. Okay, and then, just sort of digital painty stuff that doesn't... I can't really see the underdrawing in it, which is what I usually like to look for. More kind of digital painty looks. I mean, these are good artists, but I just feel like they're covering up what was strong in their underdrawing with the overdrawing. If you zoom back from this, it's way too dark. Everything is dark and black and grungy, and it's hard to tell what's going on. The purpose of a comic book cover is to grab your eye from a distance. So that was a shiny one. It's almost like a Tony Stark bit they're doing or something. That's okay. It's a lot of empty space for that prime real estate, but an action shot, that's a cool one. So a sky, yeah, to give you a sense of place, and some space spent on the cave to sort of explain the light and shadow, but a dynamic point, some contrast in colors, you can tell what's going on zooming out from that. It's just a cool little drawing of the armor. Yeah, you can do some cool variety. I wouldn't grab this cover and say, oh wow, I gotta have that, but it's a cool little bit if I was already interested in the character. And pencil art, pencil art, pencil art. Wow, what a great pencil artist. Let's just look at this. I have not shown everything, so I'm going to focus on the pencil art and just look at it with you. Very clean, solid black and white line for the abstract stuff, and then rendering for Eric. Wow, look at the detail in that. Man, I wish it was even bigger than that. Good grief. Look at that. Ah, yes, I love good drawing. Passion, love of craft, making it count. Good grief. Oh, come on, Marvel. Come on, Marvel. Care about your art. That's what sells comic books. Holy cow, a giant horde of drooling monsters. Yep, so Valiant is on my watch list. Thank you, local comic book shop owner. I'm going to be paying attention to Valiant. There's him diving for a little bomb or something, and I think his Exo Manowar armor saved him. Oh, that's sweet. Rising Steam. I didn't notice that when I was just reading the regular book. So even though I enjoyed the coloring this one, and I thought it worked pretty well with the drawing, I am noticing some things about the drawing that didn't stick out to me as much when I was reading the regular book. Lots of focus on black and white and balancing it. Just a good artist. A practiced artist, an artist who cares about making the whole page look good, about making individual panels look good. Wow. The machinery's pretty cool. It's always sort of like abstract with lots of little bells and whistles on it to make it feel... It feels alien, and it feels like it could exist at the same time. There's that one I was looking at earlier, but in pencil form. Yep, so, wow. I dug this. I don't know what to expect from Valiant. Maybe I'll read more and I'll just get sick of the Valiant universe. But 2 good books in a row, I'm hooked. Thank you, LCS owner. I give this a high recommend, and Tomas Giorello is in my art boss section for life. I love you. I'll catch you later.